What is going on, guys? My name is Bucky and welcome to your very first tutorial in Linux. Now in this video series I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a whole bunch of cool stuff with Linux, but before we begin I probably should answer this question: what the heck is Linux? Well, Linux is an open source operating system. Alright, what does that mean and why would I care about it? Well, you already know what an operating system is. Windows is an operating system. If you're on a Mac, you probably have OS X as your operating system. An operating system is pretty much the core component that any personal computer needs in order to work. So normal users really don't care about these because they usually work behind the scenes and do stuff like handle memory and handle devices, like whenever you plug a USB flash drive into your computer. And like I said, normal users are like, who cares, as long as it works, whatever. But to developers and like server administrators, they really want to learn about this thing called Linux, because not only is it a different type of operating system, but it's open source. So what's the benefit of having an operating system that's open source? Well, check it out. The people at Microsoft, whenever they make Windows, or the people who make OS X, they write the code, and all that code that they use to write it, it's hidden. Now Windows and OS X, don't get me wrong, they have lots of money and they made awesome operating systems. I love them. I have computers that have Windows and OS X both on it. But here is the problem that I have with these operating systems. First of all, whenever the people at Microsoft and Apple are making these operating systems, they write the code and they just give you the CD, or it comes pre-installed on your computer, but you really don't know how the operating system is made or the source code behind it. So the problem with that is, how do you know that everything is secure like it should be, programmed properly, and there aren't any backdoors? Shout out to the NSA if you can hear me. So how do you know that there are no issues like that? Well, you can never see the source code, so you just kind of have to trust these companies. Now, it's not really an issue, but it's kind of a problem that you have, is what happens when you want to change something on your operating system? What happens when there's a bug that you want to fix, or maybe there's just something about it that you want to customize? Well, with Windows and Mac OS X, you can't really do that. So you're pretty much stuck with what they have. Sure, you can pick like Windows 7, 8, or 10, but that's pretty much all the flexibility you have. So that is where Linux comes to the rescue. So not only is it completely free, but it's completely open source as well. This means that all of the code that they made to create this operating system, you can actually just copy it and change a few things, and you can release your own version of Linux called Splinix if you want. And since it's open source, instead of a company of people working on it, you have the entire world that can fix bugs, make updates, and add features, make improvements to it. So it's pretty stinking cool. So sounds pretty awesome. I mean, Linux, alright, sounds pretty cool. Let's go ahead and play around with it. But here's the problem. You see, there is no way in the world I am uninstalling Windows and installing Linux, no matter how cool it is, because I got a bunch of stuff on my computer. I don't want to mess with any of my files. Got all my, pictures from my girlfriend on here. So what can we do? Well, you have a couple options. So just like any operating system, what you can do is you can just install it as your main operating system. So you can uninstall Windows and install a distribution of Linux, and I'll show you guys what distribution means later on. But you can do that, but that's going to be a pain. So instead, what I'm going to recommend is this. In this tutorial series, and if you're just getting started with Linux, I'm going to show you guys how to install something called a virtual machine. Now, a virtual machine is pretty much a computer within a computer. What the heck am I talking about? Well, whenever I show you guys how to set up this program, what it is going to allow you to pretty much host an entirely separate operating system within Windows or within your Mac. So that way we can install Linux, we can install games on it, have a whole bunch of files, text files, and if we accidentally delete the entire core operating system, then it doesn't affect our main and this is called a host operating system. So it's entirely sandboxed, entirely separate from our main computer, and that way we have a nice, safe environment. Alright, that sounds much better. So how do we get this virtual machine? Well, there are a couple different virtual machines. VirtualBox is one of the most popular ones, but I like the virtual machine from VMware. So if you go to vmware.com, and this is entirely free by the way, click on downloads, and if you scroll down until you see where you at, right here, VMware Player. So whenever we click this, this is the product that allows us to pretty much have virtual machines or have separate operating systems within our operating system. So pick what one you want to download, and I'm going to download mine for Windows. Don't download one for Linux, because if you're already on Linux in this tutorial, then you don't need to install Linux within Linux. But I am on Windows, so I'm going to click download and let it do its thing. So once it's downloaded, double click it to open it, and this is just a wizard, so if you ever installed anything, this is going to be a piece of cake. Click yes. Let me minimize this. And another thing I want to point out, I read this before, but I never really had problems with it. Some people say that they have problems installing this whenever they have USB drives plugged into their computer. So before you run this installer, unplug every USB drive from your computer. Again, I personally never had a problem with it, but some people say, so just giving you guys a heads up. Alright, so continuing, just click next, next, where do you want to install it? Default location, looks good, and check for product updates on start. Why not? Make sure we have the most up-to-date version. And do we want to send them anonymous? Nah, I think I'm good. And click next, and do you want to create a desktop on, or do you want to create a shortcut on your desktop? Yes, I do, and also in my start menu, and that way we can just easily open it. Next, and continue. And that is it. How easy was that? So once it's done, click finish, and let me drag this over so you guys can see, and we now should have this shiny new icon on our desktop. So we can click it, and boom, there we go. So you're not going to have any of these. In fact, let me remove these. So let me just remove it from the library. So yours is going to look like that. The reason that I had those is because I had virtual machines before. I actually just uninstalled this and installed it for the tutorial. But you're now ready to create a new virtual machine. And this is pretty much a new virtual computer within your computer. But don't click this link yet, because we don't even have an operating system yet. So before we set up our new computer, we should go ahead and download Linux so our computer actually has something to do. So close out of this, and I'm going to show you guys how to download Linux right now.